Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about matting your artwork today. Mrs. Miller and I are going to go through the steps and show you how to window mat. So matting is the step that you take to professionally present your artwork. And so in art class, all of your artwork that's going in the art show will be matted. So your major projects and any sketch assignments that you choose to put in the art show will all be matted. And matting is really just cutting out this special border to go around your piece. So there's some special steps that go along with cutting the mat for your artwork. The measurements are important. You'll notice that the top and the sides are all even. Those are all 2-inch measurements that you add. The bottom is 2.5 inches. And so what ends up happening is to the width, you add 2 inches for each side, or 4 inches total. For the height, you add 2 inches for the top, 2.5 inches for the bottom, or 4.5 inches total to get the perimeter of the mat. From there, we'll use a special bevel cutter to cut out the window to give it this neat kind of angled edge here. And then we'll tape your artwork in, and I'll also show you how to store it and where to clean up your supplies. So just make sure that through all of these steps, you're really careful and really thoughtful about them, checking them, making sure that you're doing them correctly. This is the final step of professionally presenting your artwork, so you wouldn't want to do anything that would take away from the great work that you did. You want to make sure that it's really crafted well and neatly. Okay, so now I'm going to take you around the room to show you where some different supplies are for matting. If you're measuring just a sketch and matting just a sketch, you might be able to get away with just using an 18-inch ruler, which is of course in the cabinet here. If you're measuring a larger artwork, you will probably need a yardstick from this side of the column. You might also at some point need a T-square from this side of the column, so just know that they're hanging here and available for you to use. Depending on the size of the piece that you're matting, you may be able to get away with cutting the perimeter with a paper cutter. Just notice there's a safety lock here, so you'll have to remove that before you can actually cut. You want to make sure that you keep your hand behind the red bar and don't put your hand anywhere in this area while you're cutting. Also, you raise the arm, position your mat board in here, and then be careful to make sure that you get a nice perpendicular cut. You want to make sure that you're lining up your mat board with this grid. So just keep in mind, like if you want a 90-degree corner, you want to line up the horizontal edge with this grid and then go ahead and cut. And I always hold the mat board down here, and then when you cut, you want to, I kind of pull this a little bit towards me and then just cut down. Any small scraps can be shifted right down here into the recycling bin. Any larger scraps, I'm going to tell you where to put those a little bit later. If you're cutting a whole piece of mat board down to mat an artwork, it will not fit in the paper cutter, so please don't try. You'll have to just cut it with a cutting mat. I'm going to show you where those are next. A mat knife and a yardstick, so just keep that in mind. But smaller pieces, you will be able to get away with cutting the perimeter using the paper cutter. There's a paper cutter here, or there's also one in the back corner of the room right over there. So now you know where they are. At some point, you will probably need a cutting mat, especially if you're working on a smaller piece or a larger piece rather that won't fit in the paper cutter. You're definitely going to need one of these mats to cut over. So just know that they're always in the top drawer in this front cabinet in the room. Okay, when you're cutting the perimeter out over a mat with an exacto knife, the exacto knives or the mat knives are in this red Folgers container, which is on the third shelf from the bottom behind the chalkboard. So just know that you can come over here, you can help yourself by opening the chalkboard and go ahead and get a mat knife or an exacto knife to cut the perimeter out for your window mat. When you need large pieces of mat board for larger artworks, typically there are stacks of larger pieces up here. This is where the larger scraps are, so please look at the larger scraps on top first to see if there's a piece that will work for the piece that you are matting. If those don't work, there's typically boxes of large sheets under the scraps. Right now it's the summer and we haven't unpacked our supplies yet, but once you are here, there will be large sheets of mat board, white, that are in here. If you would like large sheets of colored mat board, you might have to go up to the gallery office and see what's available there. Okay, so the next supplies that I'm going to show you are where the mat makers are, where the blades are, and then some other smaller scraps of mat board that you can use for sketches. So when you're ready to actually cut the window in your mat, the mat makers are up here. So you want to make sure that you have this base piece, and then you also have the matching arm piece that goes along with it. You'll need both of those to be able to cut the window. The blade for those is actually in a drawer over here. Just be careful because there is a sharp piece on these, so when you're carrying them through the room, you just want to make sure that you don't run your fingers by that part. Also check the blade before you leave the drawer. Make sure that you have one that has a nice new blade. If there's a broken blade, it doesn't have a perfect point to it, just bring it to us and we'll take care of that for you. To use the mat maker, you're going to need a long piece of mat board. So we save the long skinny scraps of mat board and put them in this drawer here. They just get put in the mat maker so that way when you're cutting the window, it's going to cut in the correct place. So when you're picking up a mat maker, just make sure that you also have a piece of long skinny mat board from that drawer. Underneath that drawer, there's scraps of colored mat board. I would suggest when you're going through this drawer, you'll probably use this mostly for sketches or smaller artworks, that you bring the artwork over here, put it up on the counter, and just look at the pieces with it. I have another video to guide you through that process. But there's lots of colored scraps here. Below that, there are scraps of white mat board. So this mat board, typically one side is white and then one side is cream. Always be aware the white side does have numbers on it, but if you would like white, you can go into this drawer. There's also another drawer of white in here as well. Below that is a drawer of specialty printmaking paper, so you don't need that for anything, but all of your matting supplies are here.